Hello and welcome to Lore of the Cards, the series that helps reveal the lore hidden within your Hearthstone deck. Don't worry, I'm still working on the Elemental Lords episode, but with the Grand Tournament just around the corner, I thought we'd have a look at some of the cards that will soon be in the game, dedicating a few episodes to cards that just don't have enough lore to fill out an entire episode of Lore of the Cards. Without any further delay, let's get underway. The Grand Tournament expansion is based around the Argent Tournament that happened in World of Warcraft. After binding with the Lich King, ruler of the undead Scourge, Arthas Menethil fell into a deep sleep. During this time, the Lich King's personalities clashed. The Orc Ner'zhul, who had been transformed into the Lich King by the powerful demon Kil'jaeden, Arthas, the first of the Lich King's Death Knights, and Arthas's humanity, which still teared away at his mind. Eventually, the Lich King awoke again, Arthas rising above the other two to become the dominant personality. When the Lich King awoke, he sent forces to attack the Alliance and Horde capitals of Stormwind and Orgrimmar, and he himself led an attack on the Scarlet Crusade-controlled Havenshire and New Avalon. The undead-hating Crusade were no match for the King, his necromancers, rampaging hordes, and his finest Death Knights. After the destruction of New Avalon, the Lich King sent 10,000 Scourge to attack Light's Hope Chapel, defended by only 300 of the Argent Dawn. The Argent Dawn were an organisation that splintered off from the Scarlet Crusade. Like the Crusade, they looked to destroy the mindless Scourge, but were more inclusive, welcoming all races to their ranks, even the Forsaken, undead free of the Lich King's will. The Argent Dawn were also free of demonic corruption, unlike the clueless Crusade. If the Lich King was able to capture Light's Hope, some of Azeroth's most powerful champions lay underneath the chapel, which he would be able to resurrect as his strongest servants. The Lich King sent giants, ghouls, and his most powerful Death Knights, including Darian Mograine, who wielded the corrupted Ashbringer. This mattered little, as though the Scourge started strongly, wiping out a third of their opposition, they were ultimately defeated when the light-blessed Tyrian Fordring arrived to battle the attack. Darian lost control of the Ashbringer, and fighting upon the hallowed ground of the chapel, Tyrian and the Argent Dawn were able to defeat the Scourge. They also succeeded in freeing several Death Knights, including Darian, from the Lich King's control. They would go on to form the Ebon Blade, and dedicate themselves to hunting down their former master. Tyrian even managed to deal a blow to the Lich King himself.
You were right, Fordring. I did send them in to die. Their lives are meaningless. But yours... How simple it was to draw the great Tyrian Fordring out of hiding. You've left yourself exposed, Paladin. Nothing will save you.
That day is not today. Tyrian!
What is this?
Your end.
Impossible.
Tyrian combined the forces of the Argent Dawn and the Silver Hand to become the Argent Crusade, dedicated to ending Arthas's rule once and for all. The Silver Hand were formed during the Second War, when the clerics of the Alliance realised there would need to be more battle-worn members among their ranks if they were to defeat the Orcish Horde. The clerics taught knights to wield the healing powers of the Holy Light, and this gave birth to the Paladins, Uther the Lightbringer being the first. The Argent Dawn, along with the Horde and Alliance, travelled to Northrend to challenge the Lich King. The campaign was lengthy, and largely successful, Tyrion acting as a figurehead throughout its entirety. The day finally came. Arthas's fall was on the horizon, but the Lich King was more powerful than any other entity the heroes of Azeroth had faced before. To make sure only the strongest would challenge the Lich King, Tyrion held the Argent Tournament, almost on the Lich King's doorstep in the region of Icecrown. The tournament consisted of combatants showing off their jousting skills and, of course, their ability for combat in the central arena. A dungeon for 5 players and a raid for 10 to 25 heroes were based in this arena. Surely to defeat the Lich King, an army should be sent his way, but Tyrion had a precise reasoning for not doing this. Every man killed would add to the Lich King's forces. So now we know why the tournament took place and the background behind it, let's take a look at a few of the cards coming with the grand tournament, starting with our episode's poster boy, Wilfred Fizzlebang. This tiny little gnome was actually a fan favourite for the new Warlock hero skin, but instead it seems Blizzard has opted to introduce him as a card. This expansion makes perfect sense, as Fizzlebang wasn't even in the game before the Argent Tournament was introduced to World of Warcraft. This Alliance Warlock, we can tell his allegiance due to his tabard, can be found in the tournament grounds channeling his energy into a mighty summoning, observed by other Warlocks. Perhaps these are his students, admirers, or maybe those that want to see what can be done when a Warlock is given free rein to summon whatever demon he wants. Fizzlebang was invited to the Argent Tournament to summon a demon for the competitors to fight. The arrogant Fizzlebang saw this as an opportunity to show the world of Azeroth what a master summoner was capable of. He fantasized that his name would inspire fear, being used by parents to scare their children into bed. Beware, or Fizzlebang will summon a mighty demon to eat you. Surrounded by his Warlock contemporaries, Fizzlebang openly gloated about his superiority. It only made sense he was chosen for the summoning. He was the mightiest summoner in all of Azeroth. When the time came for Fizzlebang to put his gathered energies to use, something went horribly
Thank you,
wrong.
High Lord. Now, challengers, I will begin the ritual of summoning. When I am done, a fearsome Doomguard will appear. Prepare for oblivion! Aha! I have done it! Behold the absolute power of Wilfred Fizzlebang, Master Summoner! You are bound to me, demon!
Trifling gnome! Your arrogance will be your undoing!
But I'm in charge here!
Quickly, heroes! Destroy the Demon Lord before it can open a portal to its twisted demonic realm!
In his hubris, Fizzlebang had summoned the Eredar Lord, Jaraxxus, rather than the originally intended Doomguard. As Eredar are stronger than most demons, Fizzlebang was unable to control Jaraxxus, and met his end by the demon's hand. The card has some nice nods towards Fizzlebang's lore and abilities. The art portrays Jaraxxus forebodingly looming over the gnome, his death closing in on him, and the fact that any card life tapped while he is in play costs 0 is a nod to his summoner background. From one legendary to another, Justicar Mariel Trueheart acted as the seneschal for the Argent Tournament, overseeing the proceedings of the tournament, and could be found in the Argent Crusade's own tent at the event. It was Trueheart that sent out messages to invite able-bodied heroes to the competition, and welcomed all champions interested in proving their worth. She kept a close eye on proceedings, and any that proved their worth, climbing to the rank of champion, she would direct them to further challenges. Perhaps this is what her card ability references. It was up to Trueheart to recognise the greatest heroes and direct them on to better things, harder challenges. This being represented in Hearthstone by an improved hero power. Beyond being a quest giver, Trueheart has not contributed much, lore-wise. Let's keep going down the legendary route with two that have recently been revealed. Fiola Lightbane and Edis Darkbane. I may have butchered the pronunciation of those two. These two women belong to a race known as the Valkyr, spirits who in life were Val'kyr. These Northrend-dwelling giants are thought to be a previous evolution of humankind. When the Lich King awoke, he sent the Scourge out across Northrend to dominate the continent. During this time, the Val'kyr were asleep, the entire race having entered a hibernation. When they awoke, they saw the Lich King's monstrous power, believing him to be some sort of death god. The Val'kyr pledged themselves to the service of the Scourge. Though undead, it is believed that the Valkyr actually existed before the Scourge and the Lich King, though it is not known when their existence began. The Val'kyr bard Helgus wrote 3 sagas, one called the Saga of the Valkyr, ancient texts predating the Lich King. In life, the Valkyr were great warrior women, and in death, these women chose to continue their warrior's service. Each Valkyr represents the strongest warrior woman of their generation, and upon their ghostly wings continue to be some of the strongest warriors among the Val'kyr armies. With his dominance over the undead, it was a relatively simple task for the Lich King to bind the Valkyr unwillingly to his will. Seeing the Valkyr's ferocity in battle, the Lich King set about creating his own, greatly increasing the ranks of these graceful but deadly warriors. The Val'kyr women of the settlement Valkyrian fought and trained for the privilege of being transformed by the Lich King. After being judged worthy, these women would go on to be the judges themselves, promoting Valkyr that proved themselves worthy in combat to Ymirjar, the Lich King's elite Valkyr force. These men and women kept their strong living bodies and were gifted with the immortality of undeath. Those that proved unworthy in the eyes of the Valkyr were still resurrected, but as twisted and deformed Varghul. Still maintaining some of their intelligence, the Varghul wear their new form like a badge of shame. The Lich King also implemented the Valkyr to keep an eye on his strongest warriors, the Death Knights. If any Death Knights fell during the battle against the Scarlet Crusade in New Avalon, the Valkyr would glide down and restore the Death Knight's undeath, allowing the warrior to charge forward yet again, a renewed force of doom. Fiola and Edis were leaders of a Valkyr force. Perhaps they were 2 of the original maidens. This may explain why they are so much more powerful than the average Valkyr. When the Argent tournament first began, the 2 women led their army to destroy the event at the Lich King's order. Among the chaos and death the Valkyr created at the tournament, the human priestess Argent Confessor Paletrus stepped forward, and using her affinity with the light was able to subdue Fiola and Edis. With their powerful leaders restrained, the rest of the Valkyr retreated. Rather than end the 2 women, their restraints were maintained, and their power was used to aid Tyrion in finding his champions. The 2 women were unleashed upon the aspiring combatants as their intended final challenge. As their card suggests, the 2 women possess polar opposite powers. Fiola wields the light to her will, using it to damage her adversaries and shield her fellow Valkyr from harm. In Hearthstone, her affinity for the light is represented through her ability to gain divine shields. Edis uses the opposite force, the shadow, to achieve very much the same as her partner, shielding her partner from harm and attacking the heroes they fought. The shadow, however, is more often associated with afflicting pain rather than preventing it, so it makes sense to give her a more damaging ability in Hearthstone. After a lengthy battle, these two Valkyr women were bested by the champions of the Argent tournament. After the Lich King's defeat, the Valkyr ended up in the service of Sylvanas Windrunner, Queen of the Forsaken.
Why have you called for me? And more importantly, what are those Scourge fiends doing here?
War Chief, so glad you could make it. With the death of the Lich King, many of the more intelligent Scourge became unemployed. Those fiends, as you so delicately put it, are called Valkyr. They are under my command now. And they are part of the reason that I asked to see you.
Get on with it, Sylvanas!
Very well, War Chief. I have solved the plight of the Forsaken. As a race, we Forsaken are unable to procreate. With the aid of the Valkyr, we are now able to take the corpses of the fallen and create new Forsaken. Agatha, show the War Chief!
What you have done here, Sylvanas, it goes against the laws of nature. Disgusting is the only word I have to describe it.
Not only could the Forsaken now reinforce their armies, but the Valkyr saved Sylvanas' life on 2 occasions. Once after the death of the Lich King. With Arthas dead, Sylvanas believed her purpose had ended and took her own life. The fate that awaited her in the afterlife was one of torment. The Valkyr offered a pact with Sylvanas. They would resurrect and serve her if she would bind to them, freeing the Valkyr from the will of the new Lich King, Bolvar Fordragon. Eager to escape her fate, Sylvanas agreed, and the leader of the Valkyr, Anhilda the Caller, gave her life for Sylvanas's. On the second occasion, Sylvanas had been able to drive the Alliance Worgen out of Gilneas, establishing Horde dominance in Silverpine Forest. During her victory speech, Lord Godfrey shot her in the back. Godfrey was brought back from the dead to aid the Forsaken conquer his old kingdom. The Valkyr and the Orc Cromash fought off Godfrey and his lackeys, and in a blind panic, Cromash demanded the Valkyr fix Sylvanas. Honouring their pact, 3 of the maidens once again gave their life to save Sylvanas. There are now only 4 Valkyr left in existence. To finish up this little glimpse into a few grand tournament cards, let's end on a couple of commons. The lowly Squire card is based on the many squires that litter the Argent tournament grounds. One squire, called Artie, who matches the art of the card quite nicely, gathered collections after the sermons given by Paltress. Heroes in World of Warcraft could make a donation to increase their standing with the Argent Crusade. Some heroes of the tournament also earned their own squires, who would follow them round intently. Perhaps these squires would be inspired by the hero's feats and want to perform impressive feats of their own, something that a +1 attack in Hearthstone represents quite nicely. The Maiden of Ashwood Lake was the objective of the quest, a blade fit for a champion. Champions of the tournament had heard of a blade called the Ashwood Brand and thought it may bring them luck during the Argent tournament. The myth the champions believed may be real stated that the blade was watched over by a maiden, who long ago had been cursed, transformed into a frog. The only way to change her back was a kiss, freely given. Rather than damn the heroes of the Alliance and Horde to a life of warty lips, they were given a vial of warts-begone lip balm to prevent the curse of this wretched deformity. Alliance and Horde flocked to the lake, located in the Grizzly Hills, kissing frog after frog. Just as it seemed as though this legend was a work of fiction, one of the kissed frogs transformed into a beautiful woman. To thank the heroes for finally lifting her curse, she gifted them with the Ashwood brand, and they returned it to their respective faction to claim their reward. So, there you have it, the lore of a few grand tournament cards that wouldn't fill out a whole episode. I hope you enjoyed these little tidbits of lore, and I plan to do more if it's something you guys enjoy. I could even go back through a few GVG cards and give them the same treatment later down the line, if that sounds like a good idea. Cards I think can fill a whole episode I won't be touching, and I hope to cover a few more in depth when the expansion is released. Do you guys like this form of content? If you do, I'll definitely do more. Keep an eye out for the Elemental Lords episode, as Blizzard gifted me with 10 pack codes, which I want to give out to you guys. But I'd quite like to do something fun with it. Maybe a 6 gamers card creation or something like that. I don't know. Either way, until next time guys, happy Hearthstoning, and I'll see you for more Lore of the Cards.